Okay, everyone, we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning. I'm Barbara Vanich, Chief Auditor and Director of Professional Standards at the PCAOB, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Standards and Emerging Issues Advisory Group of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. This morning, I want to welcome our members, observers, board members, and the public watching this meeting. I also want to give a special welcome to our new members, Laura Phillips, Stephen Rivera, Kurt Schacht, Alan Skinner, Jamila Abson-Mayfield, Stephen Lipner, and James Freese. I would like to note that board member Thompson was unable to join us in person, but is participating. He'll be listening into the meeting. And I'd also like to thank the departing members for their valuable contributions. Lynn Turner, Robert Neckel, John Lukomnik, John Bendel, Sarah Lord, Ron Edmonds, and Peggy Ferran. I would like to welcome Evan Berry, our Deputy Director of Engagement, who joined the PCAOB earlier this year. Some of you have likely already spoken with Evan. Evan, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Thanks, Barb, and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you to today's meeting of the Standards and Emerging Issues Advisory Group. Whether you're a returning member or joining us for the first time, thank you for your commitment to enhancing audit quality and protecting investors. The SEAG plays a vital role in advising the PCAOB on existing standards, proposed standards, potential new standards, and significant emerging issues. Your insights help ensure that our oversight remains responsive to the evolving landscape of auditing and financial reporting. Your contributions have been instrumental in advancing key initiatives, and your expertise informs our efforts to uphold the integrity of financial reporting and maintain public trust in the capital markets. As we convene today, I encourage open dialogue and collaboration. Your diverse perspectives are invaluable to us, and we look forward to a productive conversation today. I'll turn it back to you, Barb. Thanks.
Thank you, Evan. So at our last meeting, we spent most of the day talking about technology, including AI, and the auditor's consideration of a company's information technology risks and control environment. Thank you for your input at that meeting. We found that technology remains a topic of significant interest to us, and we'll get to, as we'll get to in a little while, to many of you as well. The Emerging Issues Subcommittee conducted a survey, which we'll cover shortly, and not surprisingly, technology was on many of your minds as a significant topic for discussion. We have a full agenda today. First, Chair Williams will make a few remarks, and then I'll provide a brief standard-setting update that includes the staff's focus since the last SEAG meeting. And after that, we'll discuss issues raised in the Emerging Issues Survey. We'll have breakout sessions and a report back after lunch. We then plan two other discussions, one on the implementation of new auditing standards, and lastly, a discussion on firm culture. I would like to thank Preeti, Brian, David, Jim, and Dane for all their work in preparing for today's discussions and breakout sessions, along with our staff presenters. I look forward to the report back after lunch on our breakout sessions. We've built in time for members' comments throughout the meeting. As a reminder, if you would like to say something, please raise your tent card and we'll try to call on you in the order your hand was raised. Additionally, I want to flag that today's microphones are push to talk. Please turn on your microphone before speaking, and maybe more importantly, please turn it off after speaking. There's one microphone for every 3 seats, so then they're sensitive with that. You may have to just pull it a little closer toward you so people listening in on the webcast can hear you. And now my final responsibility here, although others may repeat it, is to state that for all representatives of the PCAOB speaking at this meeting, the remarks by PCAOB speakers are provided in our official capacity, and the views expressed are those of the speaker, and the views do not necessarily reflect the views of the board members, or other members of the staff. As mentioned, Chair Williams has some opening remarks. If you don't mind, please hold any questions until after the standard setting update. Chair Williams.
Thank you, Barb, for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Standards and Emerging Issues Advisory Group meeting. It is really wonderful to be able to see you all in person, and I want to give a special welcome to our newest members. Thank you for volunteering your time and energy on behalf of investors. The work that you do as part of the SEAC is valued and appreciated. Before we begin, I'm also going to give the standard disclaimer that the views that I express are my own and not necessarily those of my fellow board members or our talented and dedicated PCAOB staff. For years now, you've heard me raise the alarm about the troubling trend in audit quality. In 2021, our inspectors began to see an increase in deficiencies across the audit firms that we inspect. That trend continued in 2022 and across smaller firms in 2023. The PCAOB demanded better on behalf of the investors that we serve, and I'm able to report that in 2024, inspections found significant improvement across all firms. This includes an expected 7-point drop in the aggregate Part 1A deficiency rate across firms inspected, and a 6-point drop among the 4 largest firms, which at the end of last year collectively audited approximately 80% of the market capitalization of public companies listed on exchanges. This is meaningful progress in our effort to better protect investors in U.S. markets. Still, while deficiency rates have dropped significantly, they remain too high. Our work is far from over, and today that work is as important as ever. As you know well, history tells us that when the economy is tight, the risk of fraud goes up. Companies have targets to hit, and when they can't make their numbers honestly, the temptation to cook the books is always there. Fortunately, so are we. PCAOB standards set the rules of the road auditors must follow to ensure financial statements and related disclosures are accurate. PCAOB inspectors are watching to keep them honest, and the threat of PCAOB enforcement deters wrongdoing that puts investors at risk. So like many of you, I am deeply troubled by legislation being considered in Congress to eliminate the PCAOB as we know it. This policy idea is not new. It has been around for decades. Since the PCAOB was first created in response to Enron, WorldCom, and other accounting scandals in the early 2000s that left devastation in their wake. In the more than 20 years since, the PCAOB, led by its expert staff, has made valuable contributions to the safety and security of U.S. capital markets. Investors are better protected today because of the PCAOB. Audit quality has improved because of the PCAOB. The SEC was my professional home for more than 11 years. I have deep admiration and respect for the incredible professional staff there. They are excellent at what they do. It is different from what we do here at the PCAOB. The unique expertise and experience built by the PCAOB over decades simply cannot be cut and pasted without significant risk to investors, especially at a time when markets are already volatile. Getting an inspections program off the ground alone would take years. It would require hundreds of experienced inspectors and renegotiating agreements around the world, including in China, wasting time and money, all while creating significant risk of fraud, slipping through the cracks while no one is watching. Not to mention the disruption to enforcement around the world and potential loss of unmatched expertise built by Barb and her team at a time when firms are relying on their support to implement new standards. I've said this before, and I'll say it again any chance that I get. Every member of the PCAOB team plays a critical role in executing our mission of protecting investors on U.S. markets, and they are irreplaceable. As I mentioned, since we last met, our staff has been working hard to provide firms with resources to implement the new standards and rules undertaken by this board, and I'm glad that you'll have a chance to hear from Barb and her team to talk more about those efforts later today. They've been publishing guidance documents, expert recordings, quizzes, and materials on QC 1000, AS 1000, and other new standards and rules, all of which can be found on our website, along with ways for firms to contact us should they have any questions. We want firms to be successful in properly implementing these new standards because that means investors are better protected. That is one reason we are also expanding our support for smaller firms by hosting multiple in-person forums across the country for auditors of smaller companies and broker-dealers. In fact, I kicked off this year's forum series in Chicago last month, and board member Bodick hosted the first of and I hosted the first of 2 forums so far this year, with more planned in the coming months, all hosted by board members. Just last week, our staff hosted our first in-person QC implementation workshop in Washington, D.C. for assisting smaller firms. The second is scheduled for June 17th in Irving, Texas, and even more in the works. And I'm proud to announce today that we will be forming a smaller firm resource group comprised of smaller firm representatives to advise PCAOB staff. This group will help us stay informed about smaller firms' experiences with respect to applying PCAOB auditing and related professional practice standards and inspections-related activities, as well as economic considerations. This resource group will provide us another communication channel to receive such feedback so that we can take it into consideration as we advance our oversight activities, including working to advance audit quality at smaller firms. Firms interested in participating can email us at outreach@pcaobus.org. As you know, the PCAOB under this board continues to make transparency a priority. I began talking about our latest round of inspection reports, and I want to share with you that we recently published new enhanced downloadable data sets. These data sets are machine readable and contain public inspection information from inspection reports going back to 2018 for annually inspected firms and 2019 for triennially inspected firms. We plan to update these data sets on a quarterly basis going forward. We will continue to better tell the story behind inspection reports, what they mean for investors, how firms can improve, and how users can better understand the results. And I'm glad you will have a chance to hear more from our staff about our firm culture initiative later today. But first, I'm very much looking forward to joining you in our breakout sessions. So now I'll go ahead and turn the meeting back over to Barb. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Williams. So I do want to touch briefly on recent activities of the staff in the Office of the Chief Auditor. We continue to progress projects on both our short-term and mid-term agendas. These projects, which will probably ring a bell since you've provided input to us on a number of them, include a project on inventory, auditor reporting in specified circumstances, and substantive analytical procedures. These projects also include a project on interim subsequent event standards and internal audit standards. We've been considering your input, and I'll just thank you for that input now. It's very valuable to us. In addition to standard-setting projects, as Erica noted, much of the focus in the Office of the Chief Auditor has been on the implementation of new standards. Since the last meeting in November, we've devoted significant time to assisting firms with implementing QC 1000 in particular. In addition to outreach and meetings with firms, we've published a number of implementation materials to help firms with their efforts to comply with our standards. And with respect to QC, this includes comprehensive staff guidance on QC 1000 and our new AS 2901 standard, which was issued back in late November. Since then, we've developed and published staff presentations on various aspects of QC 1000, including a general overview video and more detailed presentations on acceptance and continuance, engagement performance, governance and leadership, information and communications, a 3-part presentation on monitoring and remediation, the firm's risk assessment process, roles and responsibilities, ethics and independence, people resources, and technological resources. While the presentations are targeted to firms implementing QC 1000, the series of short videos may be useful to other stakeholders who would like to know more about the standard. We've also developed and published 11 knowledge checks, which are self-grading quizzes targeted primarily to smaller firms to enhance their understanding of the standards. And last week in this room, we hosted a full-day QC 1000 workshop targeted to smaller firms working to update their QC systems to comply with our new standard. The general consensus from the workshop is that firms found the interactive discussion helpful, including working with their peers through tabletop exercises and getting to interact with the staff. And as mentioned, we'll have another in-person workshop in June in Irving, Texas. While much of our time has been spent supporting the implementation of QC 1000, we've also developed some implementation aids for other standards. We developed a knowledge check for AS 1000, the board's new standard on the auditor's general responsibilities, and a staff presentation and knowledge check on the new confirmation standard. As I'm sure you're all aware, we've done a lot of great work under this board in modernizing and enhancing our standards. However, updated standards don't improve the quality of audits alone unless they're complied with. And so this is why we continue to work. And if you have specific questions, firms can always reach out to us through our inquiry line or the email address on our website. I also want to mention that similar to last year, our investor advisory group is again requesting the public submit examples of critical or key audit matters. As explained by the IAG during their April 29th meeting, they're seeking nominations from the general public for the most decision-useful critical audit matters or key audit matters contained in public company audit reports that were included in the 2024 Form 10-Ks or Form 20-Fs. All timely nominations received will be reviewed and evaluated by the IAG. The IAG will select what they believe to be the top 3 decision-useful CAMs, and those will be identified and discussed in an IAG report expected to be issued publicly later this year. Each nomination should include an explanation with a maximum of 500 words of why the nominated KCAM or CCAM provides decision-useful information to investors. And the request is that the public submit these to the IAG by June 30th. I will pause and see if Jeff or any other members of the IAG would like to add anything to that.
Thanks, Barb, for repeating that announcement. I would appreciate if everyone sitting around the table today, if they can take the time to identify at least one key or critical audit matter from the 2024 reports and submit them to the IAG as part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And lastly, as Erica mentioned, we plan on forming a small firm resource group, which would be an ad hoc task force to provide perspective from smaller registered public accounting firms, including common experiences with respect to applying our standards and inspections and related activities, as well as unique considerations for economic considerations, but not limited to cost benefits or unintended consequences of PCAOB programs. It's anticipated that the information obtained through the group, which will contribute to the staff's understanding of how we might more effectively promote compliance among smaller firms, which is an important part of the board's mission. As Erica mentioned, feel free to email us at outreach@pcobus.org, or if you have questions on the task force, please reach out to me directly. And I will now pause to see if anyone has comments or questions before we get started with our first topic. Preeti?
Good morning, Barb. I know we've all been talking, and Erica opened the meeting with the unfortunate news that there could be some pushback in continuing the PCAOB operations. I know a number of us have started writing letters. There's a letter coming out from a number of academics. There also are some of the people in this room work with the investor groups. They're also working on letters. What is notable is the silence from the firms. I would really love to hear from the firms about where they stand on this issue, the pros and cons of potentially folding the PCAOB into the SEC. Their silence is noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. I don't see any other tent cards up, so my esteemed colleague, Danny Verbeck, in the Office of the Chief Auditor, will now provide a brief intro on the results of the Emerging Issues Survey. We'll then move to our breakout sessions, and then we'll go to lunch. But Danny, please go ahead and get us started.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Barb. So in April, a survey was sent to all SEAG members asking them to identify up to 5 emerging issues that they believe the PCAOB should consider for the purposes of standard setting, research, or guidance. Their survey also asked SEAG members to identify specific questions or subtopics that they believe should be addressed by the PCAOB. On the screen, you'll see the top 8 themes identified by survey respondents. 2 themes identified, the engagement team experience and implementation of new and amended standards, will be covered in other sessions planned as part of today's meeting. In consultation with the Emerging Issues in Auditing, or EIA subcommittee, 4 of the themes shown on screen were identified for further discussion as part of this morning's planned breakout sessions. Those themes were the audit marketplace, artificial intelligence, which has been combined with digital assets to be covered in one session, and uncertainty in the economic environment. SEAG members and observers have been allocated into breakout rooms based upon their survey responses. Earlier, Evan informed you of your breakout room assignments, which are included in the materials for today's session. You have been provided with various prep materials and questions developed by the EIA subcommittee to consider in advance of your assigned breakout session. Questions were developed based upon survey responses, and in particular on the specific questions or subtopics that respondents thought should be addressed by the PCAOB. Lastly, 2 themes identified, the operations of the PCAOB and audit quality, included a variety of nuanced questions about several different existing PCAOB standards and standard-setting projects. While we appreciate all comments received via the survey and will take them under consideration, we believe that having further discussion on the 4 aforementioned themes would be most beneficial to the PCAOB and most aligned with the objectives of the SEAG. Breakout sessions are non-public and will be facilitated by 1 or more members of the EIA subcommittee. The location of each breakout room is also shown on screen. So as you leave the auditorium, breakout rooms are located on the right across from the atrium where some of you may have had breakfast this morning. The first breakout room you'll see is room A. So we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. I think we'll still go ahead and start breakout sessions at 10:45. They will last until noon. Lunch will be served in the atrium from noon until 1, and we do ask that you return to this room at 1 p.m. to continue with the rest of the live meeting. With that, I'll ask everyone to proceed to their assigned breakout session. If you need assistance, Akiko and Brian will be at the main doors of the auditorium to help you navigate to the correct room. For members of the public who have joined us online, thank you for your time this morning. The public meeting will resume at 1 p.m. when we will provide you with a recap from the breakout sessions. So with that, we can all start to head to the breakout sessions. Thank you, everyone.